learners don't reflect about what we're learning. So I'm Pisano, for all of you who don't know, we're talking about your time abroad, correct?
Yes.
All right, so whatever yours.
Okay, cool. Perfect. That is well. Very, very well. Okay, vous avez très bien fait. All right. Alors, je regarde. Est-ce que tout le monde parle français ici? Levez la main si vous parlez français. Wow! Cameron, viens ici.
What?
Viens ici.
No, I'm managing stuff.
Wer spricht Deutsch?
Ein bisschen.
Who speaks English?
No.
All right. Well, if you were all, my French students, I would speak entirely in French, but since we have some people who do not speak French, and we only a couple speak German, I can't do that, that's not relevant. Anyway, this has to do with Senegal. I am so glad that you are here. I don't know if you know this, but I spent, well, my students probably know about it, because I spent an entire year from August to August in Senegal. Does anyone know where Senegal is? Yes, hurry up. What part of Africa? Be specific.
East?
Nope, other direction. West. West, okay? And if you, I don't have a map here, but it's the farthest tip. If you see the little thing that sticks out, that is where Dakar, the capital of Senegal, is. Okay, why did I do this? Well, I haven't thought about this in 6 years. When I got back from Senegal after a year, it was such an emotional experience for me, and it was a very intense experience. And I'm sure you know Mr. Heckel spent 2 years in the Peace Corps in Kurdistan. I don't know how to say that. And it's a very deep experience that you will never forget. And when I got back, that's all I talked about. Anybody who was listening, I would talk. But gradually that fades and you don't talk about it anymore. So last night I was pulling out my stuff and I said, oh my gosh, I remember this and that, oh wow. And all those memories came back. So what I did, give you a little bit of background as to why I did this. This has to do with you in the future. I come from a German background. My mom is German. She married my father, who his parents were German, so I'm 100% German, just like you are, Mr. Heckel. And I was raised in a very European way. My house was like little Europe. It did not look like an American household. So travel was in my blood. And my parents, my dad was a physician, and money was not an issue, but we were never spoiled. The only thing he ever spent money on was travel, books, and education. Forget clothes, forget any of the little frivolities, trivial things. But it was all about travel. So during my studies at university, I spent my junior year abroad as a French major, correcting my French in Université de Neuchâtel en Suisse in Switzerland. And then I happened to go through Austria, where Sound of Music was filmed. Who saw Sound of Music? Okay, one of the most beloved films ever. I fell in love with Salzburg. I remember standing on the bridge, looking at the Salzach River, looking at the fortress up there on the hill, and I was just so enamored with Salzburg. I wrote to my mother and said, please, can I stay another year? And she wrote back and said, only if you pay me back. So I obviously had to pay her back for that. So I spent another year in Salzburg in Austria, where I studied German. I studied German, and I studied music. I went to the Mozarteum, which is like the Academy of Music, where I worked on my clarinet, and met a cute Austrian boy, and he didn't know any English, and my German needed help, so I learned an awful lot of German. And we would go out at night and eat Wiener Schnitzel and drink milk, and arm in arm at 2 in the morning, singing, and the policeman would just laugh and say, Guten Abend. So it was a wonderful year. My year in Switzerland, I would say I was an academic. I studied so hard. And the second year was more my lessons of life, which I think are important in your life, so try to include study abroad at some point, be it a semester, preferably a year if you can possibly do it. The rewards are immense. So that was my background, and many, many years ago, I was teaching in rural Pennsylvania, and after about 8 years, I started getting a little, that itch, you know, that called it Wanderlust in German, the itch of traveling, so I applied for a Fulbright. You probably have heard about Fulbright. They have a research program, and then they have a teacher exchange program. And you have to speak the language, otherwise, you won't be able to function. And my German was good enough, so I passed the German test and was accepted to go to Oldenburg, which is in the north of Germany, where I taught English for the entire year. Had a wonderful, wonderful year. Came back highly pregnant, not part of the plan. Many things will happen. Yes, it was my husband. And that was not part of the plan. But many things in your life will not be part of the plan. And when you look back upon it, you say, oh, thank goodness that happened. So I came back, and then suddenly all I wanted to do was be mommy. And we moved to Virginia. My husband was a teacher. Then my son was born, and I stayed home for several years to raise them. Then I got my first job in Virginia, here in Fairfax County. So that was in 1993. And I've been here ever since, totally, totally happy, loving my students, as you know. I'm sure you feel my love for you. After, again, about 8 or 9 years, I got that itch again. And it was the time to say, yeah, I think I want to spend another year abroad. And the time was right. My kids were old enough. My mother, who passed away at 97, yeah, I'm hoping to follow her. She had tremendous energy, and I think I have inherited her energy, lucky for me. And I thought, well, she's not here, and I don't have to stay here. I didn't feel guilty about leaving her. So I applied for another Fulbright. And I thought, gee, I wonder if I'm going to get it. And this time I said, I want to really, 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 really perfect my French. And so they had 3 countries. Number 1 was France, number 2 was Switzerland, and number 3 was Senegal. Senegal? Where's that? They made me number my wishes, and I put them in that order. France first. In spite of my travel with students, I have never lived in France for an elongated, a lengthy period of time. That's what I wanted to do. Then number 2, I put Switzerland, even though I had spent time in Switzerland. That's a very beautiful country. Why not? And I put 3, Senegal. I didn't know where I was. I didn't want to go to Africa. So then we go through a big process, and remember this for your future. If you have a language, many doors will open to you. So stick with the language that you're studying. And then I had an interview, I think it was at one of the universities, Townsend universities in Maryland, where they wanted to see about my French knowledge. Well, we had they were French, they were really French, asking me questions like, what would you do if clauses? Remember we were talking about if clauses? Qu'est-ce que vous faisiez? Qu'est-ce que vous feriez si vous êtes dans cette situation? Right, when you think of point, that is definitely used. And I would have to answer what I would do hypothetically, what was my philosophy of education, blah, blah, blah. And after the interview, they said to me, you are so flexible and open-minded, you would be perfect for Africa. That's not what I had in mind. I hope they would have said, yes, we will send you to France, your number 1 choice. So I was faced with a big decision. Africa? I've never been to Africa. Do I want to go to Africa? And it was made worse by, and I started to think about all of the difficulty in the decision. First of all, my husband, he has a phobia about flying, and it's gotten worse and worse the older he gets. So my travel in a plane is limited. So, and he's not a Peace Corps kind of a person like I am. And he said, well, if you want to go, you're going to go on your own. So I said, okay, let me think about that. All right, that was my first challenge. Then I thought, I don't want all those shots. There's all kinds of inoculations, vaccinations you have to have, and it's typhoid, hepatitis, yellow fever, and then you have to take malaria medicine. I said, well, I don't want to get malaria. So that was my second challenge, and also, of course, I didn't want to leave my family. So how did I make this decision? And this happens to, you think about this, when you're faced with a big decision, certain things will be made clear if you really dig into yourself and start thinking about the pros and the cons and what does your gut tell you. Well, other than my fear, I got encouragement from Madame Brunino, who has one of her master's degrees in anthropology, if you didn't know that. And she said, Inga, you have a chance to go to Africa? I would give my right arm to go to Africa. And I said, you would? Yes. Okay, stuck that in my head. Second thing, I had just read, and Madame Silva, and I'm sure Madame Snyder, did you read Elizabeth Gordon or Gilbert's something peace, no, what is it, love?
Eat, pray, love.
Eat, Pray, Love. Anybody, have you read that yet? Okay, it's wonderful. Well, particularly that first part when she goes to Italy, you know, she has the love affair with her pizza,
Yes.
you know, and
Yes.
it was just suddenly her whole soul expanded. And she did this on her own. So I said, well, if Elizabeth can do it, I can do it. And then the third thing, this is another like a message from the universe. I had a dream, and I still remember it. I was walking with my daughter's dog, Cody, who had one brown eye and one blue eye, because he's part husky. And we were walking over this bridge. Of course, I was by myself. And I looked out, and there was this lake, and on both sides, there were hippos everywhere. And as you know, hippopotamuses are considered the most dangerous animals of all. And so anyhow, I looked at Cody, and I said, I don't want to go out there with all these hippos. They're going to attack me. And he looked up at me with his one brown eye and one blue eye and said, or he gave me the message, you'll be all right. And he started to walk across the bridge. And I followed Cody, and I got to the other side of the bridge, and nothing happened to me. That was the message that I was supposed to go to Africa by myself for a whole year. So I did. Well, let's get into the challenges. Oh my, so many. It started at the very beginning. I flew by myself, of course, to New York, to Dakar. Dakar is the capital of Senegal. I was supposed to be met by the embassy, because this is an embassy, it's a government-sponsored program. And I was exhausted. I had left at 5 in the afternoon. I had flown all night. Of course, when you arrive, you feel sick, tired, you feel dirty, your stomach is funny, you're scared. So I arrived in Dakar fully prepared to be met by the embassy. There was no one. All there was were people everywhere, just throngs of people, and they were all black. Now, I'm a very broad-minded person. I am not racist, but when I saw thousands of very, very black people, some the color of Madame Silva's sweater, and I just suddenly felt really white. I felt like I'm a minority, and I suddenly felt very vulnerable. I was white, I was female, and I was small. And when they see anybody who's white, they think money, wealthy. We are wealthy to them. We are stinky wealthy to them, with reason. So, all these men were converging on me. Madame, est-ce que vous avez besoin d'aide? Alors, laissez-moi vous aider. Let me help you. Let me take your suitcase. I felt assaulted. I was really scared. And I saw some man with this big smile and wearing a nice white starched shirt. And he smiled at me and I said, "Ah, monsieur, vous êtes avec l'ambassade. Are you with the embassy?" "Ah, oui, madame." So I said, my savior. And he comes to take my suitcase and he asked for 10 sefas. Sefas are Central African francs. So I gave him a bill, thinking that he was from the embassy, that he would take care of my suitcase, that he was the taxi driver, that he would get me safely to my hotel. Well, he got my suitcase and he said, "Au revoir." And I said, "What do you mean? What do you mean? Vous n'êtes pas le chauffeur? You're not the chauffeur?" "Oh, no, madame." So he obviously had asked for $20 just to get my suitcase. That was it. That was my first moment of being taken advantage of. All right? But he said, "Oh, no, pas de problème. Reste ici, stay here. I will get a friend to take you to your hotel." So I sat on my little three-legged stool over in the corner with cockroaches coming under my feet. It was sickeningly hot. And I felt so vulnerable. And Mr. Heckler, you talked about that, being scared, being lost. And that's part of the experience. But at the moment, you aren't laughing, right? So anyhow, the taxi driver came, he got me in the taxi, and we're driving from the airport to Dakar. And it was a 15-minute drive, and I said, anything could happen to me, and no one will ever know. Who is this man? Who is this friend? Who is this taxi driver with a hole in the floor where you can see the road underneath, and where the windshield wipers did not work, and all of the windows were broken? I thought maybe this is the end of Madame. No one's ever going to see me again. So I did my prayers. I hope that this is a good person, that he's going to take care of me and get me to my hotel. And he did. He got me to my hotel. And the first thing I heard as I got out, being assaulted by the heat, tremendous heat, was the call to prayer. Have you ever heard the call to prayer? If you're a Muslim, right? And it's a different sound. Sort of these minor tones. And being a musician, of course, I'm tuning in to the minor tones. And I said, what have I done? What is going to happen to me? Did I make the right choice? I feel very uncomfortable. Anyhow, got into the hotel. They gave me my room. It was clean. It was simple. I locked that door and took a shower and jumped into bed. I was so happy. That was the beginning, challenge number 1 on day 1. Apparently, what happened at the embassy, they never came. They messed up. Either they just didn't follow instruction or whatever, apparently they were fired. My brother-in-law, who's a retired foreign service officer, he was furious. He called Africa and said, why was somebody there here not to pick up my sister-in-law? They didn't have, the guys were fired. That was that. That was my first challenge. Then I looked in the street. I saw beggars. I saw people without limbs. I saw people with pus coming out of their eye sockets. Kids everywhere, dirty, wearing ripped t-shirts, often without shoes. And again, they see the white lady, money, wealth, give me alms for the poor. By that. Even though I knew intellectually I would be faced with it, it was in my face. The vendors were extremely aggressive. Everybody wanted to sell me stuff. There was trash everywhere, and there were no trash cans. Okay? The traffic, crazy traffic. There were no lights. I think there was a stop sign that nobody obeyed. Pedestrians, you take your life into your hands. They don't stop for pedestrians. It was wild. Well, I met there were 2 other Fulbrighters with me, and I called them the boys. He was from Vermont, and he was from Wisconsin, and then me. So he was in his 30s, he was just a young'un. He was in his 40s, and then there's the old lady, Madame. So we all 3 were at different schools and all had very different experiences. We lived in the same building on L'immeuble de Rose, which is the pink building, and it was sort of government funded. It was not bad. I mean, I actually did not expect to see so much room, but there were bugs. The electrical, all of the little cords were frayed, so I often would sizzle, and I'd have to call somebody if I was going to burn to death. In the kitchen, I had 2 things to use, and one was a aluminum bowl that was all bent. Was there a saucepan? Maybe. And there were no eating utensils. Because in Africa, you don't use them. You use your hand. It was nothing. But it was roomy. It was roomy. So I had no complaints about my living conditions. What I dealt with, you could not drink the water. The air conditioner was only placed there by a previous Fulbrighter because she refused to live in the apartment unless they put in a small air conditioner. And it never worked because the power went out all the time. It would be on for 5 minutes and be off for 2 hours. It'd come on for 15 minutes, be off for 6 hours. I just finally put my hands up, forget it, with power. The oven did not work. The elevator, I lived 44 steps up. Now, 44 steps is not much, but if you do it every day, 1, 2, 3, 4 times, 44 steps. I said, well, where's the elevator? Oh, voilà l'ascenseur, mais ça ne marche pas depuis 10 ans. It hasn't been working for 10 years. Okay, fine. Yeah, and challenges, and they're getting bigger. September, there was no school. School does not open until the moon is in the right position. That's part of the religion. So, and it was really hot, and they wait until the greatest heat is over. Did not start to the beginning of October. I went to the embassy with my young friends, my other colleagues, and I had gotten a box in the mail, a care package for my sister, and it was a fairly large box. So Tom said, well, maybe can I carry this for you? I said, no, I can do this. You know, this is my year to really do everything on my own. It was a big box, and I couldn't see where I was going. Well, I tripped over something, I don't know what it was. It was a curve at the embassy, and my ankle rolled under, and it really hurt, and it ballooned. It looked like an elephant ankle. So I went to the medical service on the campus of the embassy and said, look at this. I said, I'm sorry, we can't treat you. Even though we were Fulbrighters, we could not use the medical service. Why? I don't know. And I said, could I at least have ice? They gave me ice. Thank you very much. Somehow I got home. I think I did take a taxi because I couldn't walk on it. I did not know it was broken. I had fractured my ankle in a couple spots. I did not know that. And we three went on a trip down to the beach and we walked along rocks and everything for the whole weekend. And I realized I was getting pain all the way up through my leg. And I said, something's really weird. So I called the embassy and said, well, what am I going to do? If you're not going to give me medical service, what do I do about my ankle? And they said, well, you have to find your own. I'm in Dakar. Where do I go? They told me there was a German doctor in town, since they speak German. So I went to her, Dr. Drame. I still remember Ulla Drame. So we communicated in German. And she put just an ace bandage on it. She said, come back to me and see if it doesn't heal. It did not heal. She sent me to a radiologist. And this is all I have to figure out, how to get there, how to speak Wolof, which I didn't know. Only 10% of people speak French there. And I got to the radiologist. He took a picture of it. He actually did a good job. Showed me it was broken in two places. So they put me in I had to go to a clinique. And a clinique is a fancy hospital for the wealthy. I classify for the wealthy. The normal people would never gain entrance into this very nice clinic. So, they put on a cast. Was it a walking cast? What do you think? No. I've never broken a bone in my life. I had to use crutches. I never used crutches in my life. Okay? And I remember standing at the top of the stairs. There must have been about 8 stairs, all out of marble. Remember, this is a clinic for the wealthy people. I didn't know how to maneuver with the crutches and with this stupid plaster cast. And I think somebody took pity on me and helped me get down the steps. I got home to my apartment, 44 steps. Who's broken their leg and has had to hop around? All right, let's see. Here's a picture of Madame. I found this last night with her, with her cast. I didn't know how to get up the steps. So I said, okay, figure it out. You put the one crutch here, then you put the good foot here, then you put the crutch up on the next step, then you put the good foot up on the next step, and you don't dare put any weight on the bad foot. 44 steps. And once I got up to my apartment, I said, I'm never leaving again. Everything was, I had no idea everything would be so difficult. What we take for granted, that we have 2 feet that work. I said, well, how am I going to even cook? What am I going to do? How am I going to eat? How am I going to prepare anything? What am I going to do? I took a picture, I couldn't find it. Okay, I need a volunteer. You are me.
Okay. All right.
You have broken foot. You cannot put any weight on this. All right. I didn't know what to eat because there weren't any stores around except like little tiny, like it was the open market. But there was a gas station that did sell noodles and bottled sauce. Okay, that's what I'm going to eat for dinner. All right, guess what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to boil that water. Okay, take that one dented aluminum pot I told you about. Okay, good. Fill it with water. Okay, now the stove.
This is a sink.
The stove was over here. You've got water, lots of water. Put it on the stove, hold on, turn it on, and hopefully you have to light it with a match, because usually it didn't work.
Where are the matches?
Here, hop. Get the matches. Good. Hop over. Okay, turn it on. Wait for it to boil. And here comes the test. Something so simple. How are you going to get that boiling hot water? Oh, that was after I cooked this weekend. I missed that part. How are you going to get that to the sink? Try
Oh. Can I use these?
it. Sure.
These might oven mitts.
Boiling
go.
hot water. Yes, good. You were far more graceful than I was.
On the sink.
Thank you. I remember using a little step stool. I took a picture of my dinner, of my noodles with the sauce on it. It was the biggest creation in my life. So happy. Small thing. Be appreciative. Be grateful for your 2 working legs. Huge challenge. Okay, school started in October. Of course, I was still on crutches. I had to be on crutches for 6 weeks. I arrived at the school. Everything is in sand. Who's walked on crutches in the sand? Lexa. It's hard. Right? So hard. My armpits hurt. I was sweating bullets because it was so hot. And there were all the teachers, mostly men, very few women, male-dominated society, in their long flowing gowns, not gowns, but robes, and they weren't quite sure what to do with me. They didn't know how to, I don't know. I think that they were intimidated because English was my native tongue or whatever, that they didn't know how to reach out. It's hard to be a host. You have to learn to be a host. So anyhow, there were a few who I think felt comfortable to talk to me, and they told me a few things that basically they said, okay, you'll be teaching English 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. They gave me books. There's one that was for the 8th grade. This is for the 9th grade. This I go teach. This was the textbook. This is the textbook. Compare this to your lit book. This is it. And they had to pay for it. Did every kid have enough money to pay for this book? No. I would say in my class, and I'll tell you how many were in my first class, there were probably 10% of them, if not more, who could not afford this book, which would have been like 50 cents. So there were some donations from some people to purchase it. I walked into my first class, 65. 65. I mean, it kept going all the way to the back. And to learn their names, I brought my grade book, and I think I have their names, and I can pass this around. Abakar An, Amadou Ba, Mustafa Ba, everyone had a name Ba. Mohammed Usile Ba, Umu Bas Ba, Abdullah Kamara, Tam Sise, Anja Kulibali, and they would laugh at me because I couldn't pronounce their names, which is, I guess you laugh too at teachers who can't pronounce names. Anyhow, these were my grades for one semester. And the people in the front, Khalila, can you count them? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, 8 for a whole semester. That was it. Not all these little quizzes. A lot of emphasis was put on they had to study on their own. We had big tests. And when I would write a test and take it to the secretary to run it off, she would give me a dirty look because it went over the second page. Because of paper shortage. So I had to type it on the tiniest little font and squish it all in so she wouldn't give me a dirty look. That was some of the differences. Another thing, for this particular class, there were topics discussed that we would never discuss. I particularly remember the health unit. And here it is. They talk about malaria, cold, kwashiorkor, which is a big belly growth failure and edema, AIDS. They talked about it freely. By the way, Senegal did a very good job in treating AIDS as soon as it came out. measles, tuberculosis, and cholera. Well, one of the questions here, do you sleep badly? Do you get up frequently at night? Blah, blah. Are you frequently constipated? I had to discuss this with my 65 kids. Are you constipated? How constipated are you? How often do you post to that? They weren't even embarrassed. I was embarrassed to talk about constipation. Okay, somebody give me, Susan, tell me when I have to, I have so much to say. I could talk probably for 3 days. So when I have 5 minutes left.
You have 4 minutes.
That's it?
That's it.
4?
4.
Okay, my biggest challenges were in teaching. What works here did not work there. I had 3 things against me. I was white, I was a female, I was short, and I was injured. And the laws of nature, we pick on who's injured. They were not wonderful children that sat like this and said, teach me. They talked all the time. I can't stand it. But they do that, even the teachers do that. So it wasn't just for me. So I had to adjust to that. The other big challenge was the poverty that I saw everywhere. The big challenge was, how can I help? And the way I learned how to help, I wanted at first to help all that. I wanted to solve all of the problems. You cannot. One girl in my class, her name was Sapna, and we walked together home because she lived fairly near where I did. And she had all these African clothes. And I said, oh, I love your clothes. Oh, my mother makes clothes. Oh, could she make me some? So she started making clothes. And I would give her $5, which was a fortune for them, for each outfit. This is one of the outfits that she made for me, so I had about 20 outfits. Sapna is now in 2nd year law school. And the reason she is there is because I have been helping her survive. She was terrifically poor. There was domestic violence at home. She called me one day on her, everyone has a cell phone, don't ask me why, when you're so poor. Little tiny cell phone, sort of like mine, but a little bit smaller. And she said, I'm being beaten by the people in my home. So she and her mother came and lived with me for 3 days. So that really touched my heartstrings. But Sapna was such a good student, and she was so earnest, and had already such a feel for literature, said, this is someone that I want to help. So she's now 19, and she's in her 2nd year of law school. So the way I'm helping is that I'm giving her the tools to help herself. Her mother begged me to adopt her. I couldn't do that. I had to dig into my soul and say, can I do this? I could not do that. I couldn't take that responsibility. So I feel like I've done the best thing that I could, was to give her enough money to eat, so she has nourishment, so she can pay her very small fee at university and get a degree and hopefully be able to get a job. There was another young man named Adam who had passed his baccalaureate, but his father had deserted, just like Sapna's father had done, and he never got to go to college, so I paid for him to go to tourist travel, and now he has a job in the Gambia and is able to support himself. And I guess I can conclude with, well, I have so much to tell you, so much is in my heart, but to summarize, I would say, for you, if you have an opportunity to go on an adventure, do it. You will come back a more interesting person, a far more compassionate person. You will be a richer person, and hopefully will find your mission, not just your job, in life, where you feel that if you were to die tomorrow, that you have done something good.